So I hit some snafus with the app, and I think it should be resolved now. So I have my screen being recorded. Not really safe to be having my phone on while I'm driving, but let's see how this goes. Apparently it's supposed to begin calibrating, but I don't see anything like that. We see it'll activate. Great, so I activated the cruise control. It's not set yet, but I'll be setting it right now. All right, and so I set it at 60, so I'm setting it at 68 miles per hour. I do have a lead car in front of me, but, oh, hold on, let's see. So right now I don't have a screen, but the car itself has, so it is turning on its own. It is quite odd because the car has an LCD indicator for when lane keep assist is on, and normally it'll show as a bright green when it is active, and right now it's showing up as white, meaning that it's inactive, but it's steering. I'm gonna do a lane change here. Let's see. Okay, it's doing a lane change, very much like OpenPilot, and see how it reacts to this situation here. So this car's slowing down. We've got cars merging in. It's slowing down for it. It should be the bare minimum. That's supposed to be how adaptive cruise control works. And now we've got these cars slowing down for this exit. Let's see how it reacts. So going back to the indicators, and I guess the UI you're supposed to be using, normally with stock Toyota Safety Sense, when I have the lane keep assist activated and enabled, hold on, so I need to correct it there. So it does have some lane exiting, so it makes me wonder really what model it's using, if it is OpenPilot. But I mean, I've had lane diving or lane exiting even in the version 0.09 and higher, so or 0.9 and higher, so it's not really a good indicator of what model it is, because I mean, I was still experiencing it even in the recent versions. But so far it is lane keeping. So now we have two lanes converging. Let's see if it hunts for the center of this lane. So that'll be a good indicator of, no, it did pretty good. It stayed kind of to the left where it was. So that's good. Because normally if you would see it hunt for the center of those two merging lanes, it means that it's likely using like a pure lane model, meaning that it's always going to try to center itself in the lane, even though that's not the appropriate behavior. But what we witnessed right now is it actually stayed kind of to the left, which is kind of, I guess, in that situation, what we would want. And so let's see if it's lane exiting there. Here he is. I do apologize for the wind noise. I have my roof rack on, and it is loud. But it is staying centered right now. And actually a better indicator could be if I move over. So lane change is pretty good, going around almost 70 miles an hour, and it did fairly well. It did kind of hug to the outside a little bit there. And we're gonna test out some stop and go soon, I think, because it is near traffic time. This might not be the best time for me to actually be driving. I might be stuck in gridlock, but it might be a good demo for y'all to see it in gridlock traffic. But as you've seen, I haven't really touched the wheel since I've activated it. And I mean, besides having the lane change, let's see. So, okay, so there's barely any cut-in detection on here. So I'm wondering, yeah, this could be versions prior to even 0.8. because I know that when they introduced the high torch model for Comma and OpenPilot, it was around the 0.8 era, and the big thing about that new model and that new system was that it allowed the AI to actually take into account more lanes than the ones next to it, and so it could kind of anticipate or guess the behaviors of cars around it, so that if it kind of felt like a car was going to cut in, it actually slowed down much sooner than what we witnessed right now. And so that could be it. Another thing too is that because it is one camera and it's a fairly wide camera, maybe the entire sensor is not being used at the moment. That could also be another possibility there. I did get an email from Epilog stating that even though they are only using one camera that's wide, they have said that they can essentially take portions of the sensor to kind of simulate a telephoto or long-range camera instead of just a pure wide. They were saying they're able to do that because they do run a higher resolution camera than what's found on the C3 at the moment. But so far, I mean, what I asked for is kind of what I'm getting. So I've got good lane keep assist for the highway. Now this is not the straightest highway, and there's also a lot of like poor marking here and a lot of changes in the road conditions, but so far it's worked really well. The adaptive cruise control work, because I'm gonna see if it can do. Okay, so when I press the follow distance button, nothing happens. So that's very similar to how OpenPilot worked if you weren't using a fork. I know that there was talk about introducing the follow distance using the physical button on the steering wheel for Toyotas coming up, but as of right now, the only way to change follow distances was through the menu itself. So if Epilog can create or borrow the code that allows me to change my follow distance using the steering wheel, that'll be great, because you know that also kind of brings it in line with how stock Toyota safety sense works as well. You know, I'm actually going to exit here and bring it to a different highway, because I mean either way it's all gridlocked, but man, I disabled the system right now and I'm manually driving at the moment. But let me just change lanes here. Cannot see. One thing I didn't check was to see what the indicator was going to show whenever there was a car in front of it. I should have paid attention to that. But I'm going to activate it right now with this car in front of me. So it's hard to see on my dash, but the dashboard is saying that there is a lead car in front. So in terms of understanding what the car is seeing, that is one way to look at it, because we no longer have that cell phone screen hanging on the windshield. And right away, unlike the stock safety system from Toyota, I don't have that message that says like I need to press resume or press the gas in order to proceed if the lead car moves. Let's see. So the lead car hasn't moved yet, but it's moving now. It's a little slow, but that's common to OpenPilot, I think, and it started on its own. I didn't have to press the gas, so that's already a step above the stock system, and so I can be happy about that. Now, this is no longer highway, this is street use. Let's see what it does here. I mean, this is not bad. Like, it's following the car in front, so it definitely has a helping hand, and it made that turn her on. And oh, 1 second, I'm gonna just basically move over here, and I actually accelerated right now, and the system did not disengage. So if it is running OpenPilot underneath, they are running code that allows the gas pedal to be activated without deactivating the cruise control system. I mean, so far this is more than I expected. I honestly thought it would be struggling like no other on these city streets, but I am actually surprised that it's able to handle some of this. Now, I can't follow that person because I have a red, but I'm gonna go now, and my goal is actually to get onto a different highway. It's likely going to be pure gridlock as well, but it should be interesting to test out. I'm gonna just activate it right now. A little too fast actually, so I'm gonna cancel it and put it to around 45 miles an hour. All right, so it's going 40 and it's approaching a car that's stopping, and yeah, it's fairly smooth stop. I mean, there's not much to say about this scenario right now. I do have this app still running, but I don't know what it's supposed to show me. It's not really showing me anything. I did have it turned on another time, and it showed me like the temperature and like my battery charge or something, but just hold on, let me focus on the driving instead of that. I'm actually going to stop recording. Okay. Stop recording that and just focus on driving. All right. So I'm pressing the gas right now, and you could get past this price, so you could give me a second. All right, now I'm going to get into this lane, and I am putting myself in traffic. I think I didn't expect to be test driving this late in the afternoon, but let's see how this goes. So I'm not turning right now, but let me see. I'm going to slow down and activate it and see what it does. I mean, this is not bad. I'll be honest. I don't know what model they're running, but normally OpenPilot would have been crying by then. So now I'm really curious what they're running. I mean, the most I can do is ask. I read their terms of agreement, or terms of service, or whatever you want to call it, and it does say that I shouldn't be going into the code to find out what they're doing. So I will shoot them out an email and ask, hey, like, you know, what version of OpenPilot are y'all running, and see what they say. I mean, I don't really expect a response, nor should they really have to respond. I mean, what they're offering is essentially good lane keep assist, good adaptive cruise control, and the lane change assist. There's like nothing else. There's no gimmicks of stop signs. There's no stop lights, no slowing down for curves that barely even works most of the time. And so if this is what they're offering, I think it's more than sufficient. 1 second here, and then I'll wait till I activate this. I think that should be fun. Good time. Okay, so just see a lead car doing a good job staying centered, and it's all hands-free, so that's nice. Also, on a side note, I'm wearing a hat and sunglasses, and I haven't had any warnings about the driver monitor. So again, that's also the same case for whatever driver monitor model that OpenPilot was using, but it is good to know that I can drive in peace. So this is a cut-in, so I think if I were to be using Comma, that might have been caught sooner and the car slowed down a lot sooner, but I mean, that wasn't a harsh cut-in, and it still worked out. But again, even with the Comma, I wouldn't have trusted it to do it on its own anyways. I would have just still been on high alert like the way I was for this one. Oh, I should probably turn my speed up. I guess I've just gotten so used to using the experimental mode where I just punch it in like 75 miles an hour. I just let it do its thing. And most of the time I always have to help it, but at least I knew I had a higher ceiling, but I hadn't realized I didn't change the speed limit once I got into the highway. I mean, this is not a highway that's taxing the system much. There are some slight curves to it, but I mean, this is really all I would be asking for in terms of an add-on for the LKAS, because if you've seen my other videos, I've been trying out end-to-end or experimental for quite a while, and in honest truth, I don't think they're going to be able to get that working well until they use different hardware. I just don't think they have enough sensors or enough data to actually make appropriate decisions when they're driving. And so if all you want is like the bread and butter, great lane keep assist and good adaptive cruise control, this is doing it. I mean, I'm not saying that the stock Toyota safety system couldn't do this very moment right now, but I would have to put a little pressure on the wheel the entire time, or maybe even correct it a few times. I know that like with Toyota Safety Sense, it is very sensitive to the changes in how the paint is for the lane lines, but so far this has been behaving very close to the Open Pilot experience, and I think that's saying a lot. And again, I can't get over how cool it is not to have a cell phone screen hanging on my windshield. Like I think I also have a Tesla Model 3, and I only have the basic autopilot system, but it's so nice to be able to use that and not have a screen hanging on the windshield. And now, you know, you get the benefit of some of the behaviors of Open Pilot. For instance, like with my Tesla, if I were to correct right now, you know, it would disengage the system. But now I can get the visibility plus the capabilities of a really good cruise system. This is great. I know the launch price right now is set at $650. If they can maintain that price going forward, I think they have a very compelling product, because if you saw the footage of me installing it, really the hardest part was kind of finagling the wires up, and that was really it, because everything else just snapped into place. With Open Pilot, like there's a very popular video on how to install it, and the guy is out there with like fishing line and rulers, and like if you want to talk about giving your customers friction, that's how to do it. Now, if you want to have a product that many people are willing to buy and are going to be willing to install themselves, like I think it has to be something like this. You know, like I just snapped that in. There was no like meticulous measuring or guessing that I had to do it right, because you know, they were essentially utilizing a ground source that was already centered, which was the clips that were built into the car itself. And I think that's just very smart. And I hope that if Comma or any of the users who use Comma are watching this, like I hope that they can learn from Epilog in making decisions like that. Now I understand that Comma is trying to capture a lot of customers right now, but I think it's almost like a double-edged sword, right? Because now so that was not the best lane change there. It actually kind of wanted to go into that other lane, but this is still better than Toyota's Safety Sense. Now going back to the mounting, yeah, I mean, I know that Comma is trying to capture a lot more brands, for instance, but it came at the cost of essentially creating a mounting system that's just far from ideal. I've read reports of people's units falling off in the heat, and that is the last thing you want when you have a computer trying to control your car going down the highway. And I had just put myself in really bad traffic right now. Yes, and if any of y'all have ever been to the Bay Area, it's not the best traffic. I'm sure it's not the worst in like the country or even the state, but man, it's moments like this I miss the 2020 era where no one was on the road. But I mean, it is kind of interesting to kind of test out this system. I am glad that they do allow the gas press on this, because it is very useful. I'm going to slow down here because I'm not quite sure if it's looking at that gray Subaru as the lead car, or the Cadillac that was cutting in. I don't really want to find out. I'm just gonna move over here. Mr. CRV can go. All right. I guess I have to decide if I want to keep recording, because I don't know how useful it is or if y'all are gonna stick around watching me drive gridlock. Because if I don't want to be here, I don't know who'd want to be here to even watch this. All right, but I did activate the system again. Let's see how it does for the gridlock traffic. I mean, we kind of already saw it, but this should be pretty simple. So we had a car cutting in. It performed well there. I don't know what it did, but we're alive. I'm gonna be pretty naughty. Let's see what happens if I turn on the app right now. I'm gonna turn off the app, turn it back on. All right, sidecar. Still nothing. I mean, maybe it's by design. I'll have to ask them if it's not supposed to show any information if I'm actually driving, which I think would be appropriate, because why would you want your users to be looking at their phone while they're driving? But I know that some people will have concern of, what is the system doing? And I think for most people, I don't know if that's like fully needed. Like, for instance, right now I know that my car sees a car in front of it because I do have a little icon that shows I have a lead car. And then at the same time too, it's giving me lane line confidence by illustrating it on the dash as well. There's two lines, one is white, one is blue, and essentially if both are lit, it means that the car has high confidence in understanding like where it should be situated in a lane. And so I think the lead car indicator, the lane confidence diagram, I think is enough for me personally. So I mean, if you're the type that can SSH, if you're the type that can install forks, if you're the type that can change the code in your device, if you're the type that even contributes code for like GitHub, then maybe this device isn't for you. But I don't know the figures, but I know that a high percentage of, for instance, OpenPilot users are just using stock OpenPilot, and the majority of them do not SSH, the majority of them do not use forks. And so
I think if you land in that category where you just want rock solid lane keep assist and good adaptive cruise control and hands-free driving, then this might be the product for you, because like there's not much action you can take on the information that was on the Comma 3, for instance. Like yeah, maybe it might give you an indicator of like, oh shoot, I should brake, but you should already be ready to brake and take over anytime you're behind the wheel. And so if you approach it in that way, in that, like, again, like be very serious about looking at these products as just as an assist and not as a replacement, then you should be at the ready all the time. And so, like, do I need a screen for that? I mean, you could argue that it is helpful, but in terms of a need or a want, I mean, I've been driving my car since my Comma died for a few months now, and I can probably count the number of times where I thought to myself, man, I wish I had like a floating triangle, maybe like a few times, but for the majority of the time, I think that just having the car center itself in the lane was just like really all I wanted, without me being nagged to touch the wheel all the time. And I think this basically delivers on that. It really is your stock system on steroids. While if you want to look at maybe Open Pilot and Comma, it would be, you know, your stock system plus tweaking, like if you want to tweak this and that. And never did I really miss any of the experimental features. They were just too inconsistent to be relied on, and by that fact, then I just didn't feel like I needed it. Boost up the speed. Let's see how it reacts at like 75 miles an hour. Okay, so I have no lead car that the car is seeing, and so the indicator for the lead car is gone now. So there is still that UI interface you have, and so now it just popped back up. So now at least there's like comfort in knowing that like the radar or the system understands that there is a car in front of me. And so so again, back to the point of like, do I need a screen? I don't think I need that screen. Like, would I want a screen? Maybe, but not where it was before. That form factor was just terrible. And I think many could agree. And now I'm really curious to see how Comma or any of the, hold on one second, let's see. So we do have a lead car indicator on here. I did feel it brake, but I'm just, again, being at the ready just in case something were to happen. Looks like we're good. And maybe I exaggerated. That traffic wasn't so bad. We weren't like stopped the entire time, so I'm probably being a baby. I haven't been driving that much. And I forgot what I was talking about, but I think main point is that even with this short drive, I think I have a pretty good grasp of the capabilities of not only my stock system, but the other aftermarket systems like Open Pilot. And I think this has some parity to it. And it's nice that it has, again, the added benefit of not having a screen on the windshield. Like, I can't get over it. It's so nice. It's actually even nicer now that I don't have the mount on there. I just took it off, and yeah, it just feels clean. See, maybe that could have been, the car could have slowed down more for that cut in, but again, I mean, it still worked. And would I want more follow distance? Maybe. I don't know. It was always, it's never really reliable for that follow distance feature.
That was a decent lane change. I can't complain about that. You know, sitting here in the driver's seat and looking at the unit right now, I know during the install I was talking about how it really does need to be a plastic injected molded piece, but it's not bad. It definitely needs a cover up there. I don't think I need to be seeing those wires. That no one needs to see that. But so far, I'm impressed with this first drive. And I'm really excited to see how Comma, Mr. One, Gutek, or any other company trying to create new hardware for OpenPilot, because I think this is the way to go. I think what Epilog and SideCar are going to be, what they're going to do is they're going to prove that you really don't need a screen, and you can put your cruise control on steroids without like ruining your car. I'm gonna bring it to like some neighborhood stuff. Let's see how it reacts there. To your slight lane change. I'm gonna slow it down manually though. Maybe let's go to like 65. You did see the lead car. That's actually pretty decent distance to understand that there's a lead car there. Took that turn fairly well. I had a commenter asking how I would rate this from 1 to 10. Hold on, I'm gonna see if it'll stay with that Mercedes. And I really don't know how to answer that, because even if you were to ask that about... Okay, so I had to disengage there because it was going a little fast, but I think it would have made that turn. I don't know if anything prior to 0.8 would have made that turn. I wonder what they're using here. But anyways, rating this from 1 to 10, I don't know. I think for me, like even the stock safety system, I would have given it like a 7. I mean, it's because it's just so useful to have that, you know, that lane keep assist and adaptive cruise control. Like those are just great features. Like how well they work, you know, it's kind of a crapshoot. But I've been using the systems for so long that you kind of just know like when and where it would work. Like for instance, if I turned on a system right now, like I wouldn't expect it to like handle this situation here. I don't know. I don't even know if I'm even supposed to be in this lane. Or maybe I am. That's weird. Okay. But you know, but if it's a clearly marked lane and it's more or less straight, like you can expect a lot of these systems to just do their thing. Like for instance, if I stayed in this middle lane and just, well, that's way too fast. Let's go to like 45. Yeah, so I mean, in this situation here, obviously that it's not taxing the system at all. And so like, would I give it a 10 out of 10 if I, you know, for this? It's like, yeah, sure, why not? But I think overall, like if you want to talk about that scale from an ownership standpoint, I would honestly put this device at the same level, if not higher than Comma 2, Comma 3, Comma 3X, simply because of the fact of the form factor. So for me, hold on, let's see. So I'm going 45 miles an hour. Will it stop in time? And yeah. And it did. So that car was completely stopped. I was approaching it at 45 miles an hour. And that essentially means that it has the same capability to stop for a car that's stopped as Comma 3, because once you go beyond 45 miles an hour, like it's very likely that the car will not stop in time for a stationary vehicle. And by this system doing that, it means that
they don't need that telephoto. Maybe they've gotten away with it, like just like Epilog has said, like, you know, like they have one wide angle camera, but the camera has higher density of pixels for the model to use. And so maybe they're doing it that way and it's working out for them. No, I mean, I don't expect it to like do like right hand turns, but I mean, in all honest truth, like you see videos online about doing right hand turns. I have a few videos of that, but the rate of those being successful are so low that it's not even worth talking about in my honest opinion. And so for me, it really is just about, again, lane keep and great adaptive cruise control. And I think that little moment there where I approached this car when it was stopped and it slowed down and stopped in time, I think we've got parity. And going back to that scaling system again, so if the base functionality is more or less the same, but then I had the added benefit of a great form factor like Epilog SideCar, I would, again, I think I'd put them level, if not giving more to SideCar just for the form factor alone. So for me, because I mean, it gets hot where I live, and so I always took down my unit if I knew I wasn't in a covered garage. Let's say, for instance, you know, I was going out with friends or whatever, I would put it down. And another thing too is, you know, like depending on where you live, like I just disabled it. You might have high crime rate, and so taking it down is a smart move. Now for this, if someone were to walk by my car, I don't think they would be like, oh my God, look, there's like a $1,200 device hanging from their windshield. I don't think so. I think it definitely right now, I mean, you'd have to look at it really close. It definitely looks aftermarket because it's 3D printed. But I hope that when Epilog does launch with their non-launch version or non-dev version, that they come out with a injected molded piece so that it does look close to stock, like it's supposed to be a part of the system. And then you really don't have much worry in terms of advertising gizmos and gadgets inside your car when you're parked. And like, again, I think it's hard to put a value on that, especially when you're comparing it to like the quote unquote like higher features. I don't even know what to call those. Okay, let's see, this is 45 miles an hour. It was a little close, but it did it. Go into this lane here. So at least we know that Epilog still has the same stopping distance. Now I know that you could argue that using experimental mode, it'll do it better, but then of course it'll do it better when it doesn't ever really reach the speed limit that you set it to. And so I don't think that's a good measure of evaluating the sidecar versus the Comma 3 or 3X, because I think they should really be measured on their base functionality. And at this moment, I think there's definitely some parity. I'm thinking back now, like when we had some exit diving, I mean, could we ding sidecar for that? Maybe. But again, like I was saying, I was having exit diving in pretty recent versions of OpenPilot. So it's really hard to ding sidecar for that when even now, like before my Comma 3 had died, I was still kind of hesitant around situations like that. And I actually have like videos that you could probably look back on where the car did dive in those exact situations too. So yeah, so from 1 to 10, man, 1 to 10, definitely not a 10. But if I were to give, okay, so it couldn't really make that, but that's fine. If I were to give sidecar grade, maybe a 7, but I think I would give Comma 7 too. Like, I mean, if I could sit there with a straight face and tell someone like, hey, like, buy this device and it'll just hang off your windshield and might overheat in the sun or might get stolen because it's out there, then yeah, I think it'd still be a 7 because it's still just kind of like a dev product. Now, when you look at it from like a power user standpoint, though, I think that's a very different story. Like, if you do intend to install different forks or you know, tweak this and that, then you definitely should go with the Comma, because it's almost like the PC and Apple arguments, right? Like, when you look at how robust the customizations you can do to Windows versus Apple, then yeah, like if those are if you want to sit there and play with the code instead of living your life, you know, spending time with your loved ones, if the code is all that matters to you, then yeah, don't get Epilog, then just get Comma. But if you just want to get in your car, have it steer for you just like this, follow well, then I think Epilog hits that mark, because there's really no fuss, no muss right now. That was kind of a deep break though. But still good. Yeah, so I think this will be the first drive. I'll have a few more drives before I think Epilog's gonna want it back, which is unfortunate. It'd be really cool if they let me keep it, but you know, we did agree that it would be a loaner. But I will say, I think I'm gonna miss the living crap out of it when it's gone, and I have to then decide. Well, the thing is, I can't really afford one right now. Otherwise, I would. But for $650, I think it's a decent buy. Especially when you compare it to like a Comma that's at $1,200, that brings along its, you know, pluses and negatives. But more or less though, I think the price point that Epilog has at the moment and with what they're bringing to the table, I mean, that was definitely a much easier installation than it was for Comma 3 and Comma 2. So I've installed both. I mean, they're kind of the same, but that was definitely a better installation. But I mean, that's not to say that Comma like will actually learn from this as well too, right? I mean, having the OBD2 port, the RJ45, the RJ45 to the relay to USB-C, USB-C to the device, like that was just, it's not ideal. And I really hope that they light a fire, that Epilog has lit in a fire underneath Comma's bum to streamline the installation the same way that Epilog has done, because that it just shows just how much like thought they put into it, maybe. And I would just love to see all these products improve, to be honest. And I think that was a long-winded video, and I wonder if I'm gonna cut it or not, but I hope you enjoyed some of this. And you know, like, comment on what else you'd like to see with the Epilog SideCar, and I'll hope to maybe get it in and try it out for the next test before I have to return the unit. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.